What's going on, guys? Today I'm back with another H.A.T format replay review for you guys. If you're interested in sending in your H.A.T format replays, you can go down to the video description and find all the information on how to go about sending those in. Anyways, the match I have for you today, we have Odyssey Icaros, who is going to be on Geargia hands, versus Molson Canadian, who is also on Geargia hands. So this is going to be a mirror match, and I know a lot of people don't like Geargia replays as a whole, and I know some people don't like, mirror matches either, but I thought that, this would be something cool to show off, as if you are playing H.A.T format, there is a good chance that this is a matchup you might run into, especially if you are going to be on Geargia or Geargia hands yourself, and so it's a good way to actually know how to navigate the matchup and get an idea of how others go and actually navigate that, so this should be a good matchup. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Here it looks like Odyssey Icaros is going to win the rock, paper, scissors and get to start this one out. Opening hands, we see Geargia Arsenal, Geargiano, Breakthrough Skill, Dark Hole, and Ice Hand. And on the other side, we see Geargia Gear, Fiendish Chain, Bottomless Trap Hole, Fire Hand, and Soul Charge. Here, Odyssey will get to draw for turn, getting a copy of Solemn Warning, very strong here. They are going to normal summon Geargia Arsenal, use the effect, tributing it to get a copy of Armor, using the Armor effect to set it, and after that, setting the 2 back row over to Molson, who gets a copy of Wiretap. And from here, they're going to set a Fire Hand of their own and set 4 back row, back over to Odyssey, who now gets a Wiretap of their own, flipping up the Armor and getting a copy of Arsenal. And from here, it looks like Armor's just going to, flip itself back face down, playing it very slow, as, both decks, obviously being the same deck, are very grindy. Here, summoning the copy of Arsenal, and that is going to meet the copy of Bottomless, so it will get banished. After that, setting the copy of Wiretap, and in the end phase, Geargia Gear is going to activate, summoning the Geargiano and MK2, and from here, Molson will draw a copy of Arsenal of their own for turn, and then start their turn by going into a copy of Geargigan X. Obviously, the both Geargianos are level 4 because of the Geargia Gear, and from here, it looks like Odyssey is going to flip that copy of Warning, and Geargigant, my apologies, isn't going to be able to get a Geargiano back from grave or anything like that because the summon was not successful. From here, Molson is going to summon that copy of Arsenal they had in hand, tributed off to get a copy of Armor, and from here, they are then going to activate Soul Charge, going for 3, bringing back the Arsenal, MK2, and Geargiano. Just double checking, the back row was a Wiretap and Breakthrough Skill. Alrighty, and from here, now the MK2 and Geargiano are back to being level 3, so they can go for a copy of Alucard, and they're going to use the effect, trying to pop the Armor here, but obviously that Breakthrough Skill is going to come in clutch here, being able to protect from that. Next, the Arsenal is going to tribute off to get a copy of Accelerator, flipping the Fire Hand, and then overlaying for a copy of Diamond Direwolf, activating its effect, trying to pop that Armor in itself, which is going to be successful, and here the Armor can then flip itself back face down, so clearing that Armor was very, very important, but now Odyssey's field is cleared, so maybe this Dark Hole will come in clutch here. We will have to see. And it looks like they are going to use the Dark Hole, clearing out the board, summoning the copy of Geargiano, and then specialing the Accelerator, using the Geargiano to summon back the copy of Armor, and then being able to overlay into their own copy of Geargigan X, using the effect, detaching the Accelerator, and that is met with Fiendish Chain. Also very curious to just show off, we just had a basically full board of traps and monsters and stuff, and as you see, we already have, a kind of simplified game state in a sense, and it just kind of shows you just how grindy but important, certain interactions are in H.A.T format. So just another great reason why it is cool to see a match like this. Anyways, Wiretap is going to be able to be activated on the Fiendish Chain, but Molson will, rebuttal with their own copy of Wiretap. So again, just even more interaction. After that, Molson is going to draw a copy of Geargia Gear, which they are going to be able to set. Odyssey gets a copy of Fire Hand. And just looking at the graveyard, there is only the one MK2 and one Geargiano in Molson's grave. So that copy of Geargia Gear is actually going to be live. They're going to normal summon Ice Hand and go to battle phase, and they are going to get in there, going to main phase 2, switching the Geargigan to defense. In end phase, that Geargia Gear is going to activate, summoning the copy of MK2 and MK2. And from here, over to Molson, who gets a copy of Fire Hand, which is a great draw in this exact scenario. From here, there are a lot of options for Molson. They could go for something like a Black Ship of Corn. They could go for a Dweller to be able to beat through some of this. Unfortunately, having this Fiendish Chain is making them a little more susceptible to the Ice Hand. But again, these are going to be level 4 because of being summoned off a Geargia Gear. So maybe even Dweller is a good play here, which they are going to overlay and instead go for a copy of Geargigan X, using the effect and getting back a copy of MK2 from graveyard, normal summoning it, and using the effect to bring back the Geargiano, then going for a copy of Soul of Silver Mountain, going to battle phase and running over that Geargigan, using the effect, and here Geargigan is going to be able to summon back the copy of Geargiano, and then the Soul Silver Mountain is going to summon back the copy of Accelerator here, and after that, the Gear Gigant can run over the copy of Geargiano, and now Molson does have their back row cleared, so this Ice Hand won't do as much, though with Odyssey going and actually drawing into a copy of Upstart here, that is pretty good, especially paired with this Fire Hand that they can go and make a rank 4, though it's going to be, again, very hard to navigate simply just because this Gear Gigant can float, the Accelerator can get back a resource, so let's see how they choose to go about this. They're going to normal summon that copy of Fire Hand and crash it into the Soul of Silver Mountain. And here, the Soul of Silver Mountain is going to trigger because it destroyed a monster by battle, summoning back the copy of Armor, and then Fire Hand is going to pop the Accelerator and summon a copy of Ice Hand, and from here, the Accelerator won't be able to trigger because of just the way that the hands work against that, specifically destroying it and then summoning, and then the Ice Hand is going to be summoned, and in main phase 2, H.A.T will be summoned, going and just clearing out the board. The Gear Gigant can then summon back, and Upstart's activate, getting a copy of Breakthrough Skill, and they are going to set it over to Molson, who now gets a copy of Armor. Okay, so, this game is not over yet. Activating that copy of Geargiano, tributing it to get a copy of Accelerator, summoning Fire Hand, and going to battle phase. Here, Breakthrough Skill is going to be activated, and then chaining the H.A.T. That way, the last thing to happen is this Breakthrough Skill attempting to resolve so that the Accelerator will miss timing there. And then over to Odyssey, who gets a copy of MST, and then here they can just push in for some damage, setting the copy of MST over to Molson, who gets a copy of Fusion Gate. So actually, this is going to be that Blaze Phoenix Geargia deck, actually. Okay, pretty cool. Here, setting the copy of Armor, and over to Odyssey, who gets another copy of Upstart, drawing into a copy of Max C. Not the greatest here, but they can go battle phase and attack into this copy of Armor. Armor effect is going to trigger, adding a copy of Accelerator, and, equal attack and defense is really, really strong here. Over to Molson, who gets a copy of Planet Pathfinder, which can get another field spell, so not the greatest here, but with the Fusion Gate, it might actually be all right. Here, Maxi is going to be activated right away, and Molson's just going to activate the Armor, flipping it back face down, over to Odyssey, who gets a Fire Hand, which they're going to set, over to Molson, who gets a copy of Chain Material, very strong card that basically will allow them to fusion summon using monsters from their deck, hand, or graveyard, so really good. That's part of the Blaze Phoenix FTK, and here, flipping up Armor, using the effect, getting a copy of Accelerator, from here, special summoning the Accelerator, overlaying, or maybe not, they're going to take a second to think, they're going to summon the other copy of Accelerator as well, and then overlaying for Gear Gigant, using the effect of Gear Gigant, detaching Accelerator, and getting back a copy of Accelerator, which they'll then special summon, going to battle phase, running over the copy of H.A.T, main phase 2, overlaying for a copy of Emerald, using the effect, detaching and putting back the Direwolf, and MK2, and Soul of Silver Mountain, drawing into a copy of Wiretap. Setting 2, here MST is going to be really important on what they hit. Hitting, unfortunately, the Wiretap there, so not great. Here, drawing a copy of Soul Charge for Odyssey, who is going to Soul Charge and get back the Armor, Accelerator, Arsenal, and then maybe they're thinking on another, and the copy of Ice Hand. So going for a very big Soul Charge play, leaving them at only 1,400. Gear Gigant is going to be summoned, flip up Fire Hand, overlay into a copy of 101, use the effect, take the Gear Gigant, and then use the Gear Gigant to get a copy of Accelerator, which they can special summon here, which is exactly what they're going to do. Overlaying for a copy of Black Ship, using the effect, sending the Emerald, doing 1,000 damage. And over to Molson, who gets a copy of Ice Hand. Okay, so they're going to set that, activate the Fusion Gate, and flip the Chain Material. Obviously, Fusion Gate says during the main phase of the turn, the turn player can fusion summon one fusion monster from their extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from their hand or field. And then obviously this is going to say anytime you fusion summon a monster this turn, you can remove from play from your side of the field, deck, hand, or graveyard fusion materials that are listed on the fusion monster card and use them as fusion material monsters you cannot attack during the turn you activate, or this card is activated, and if you use this effect for a fusion summon, the fusion summon monster is destroyed during the end phase. So now everything is set up for Molson, and here they are going to banish the Fire Hand and Accelerator to go for a copy of the Blaze Phoenix that says once per turn during your main phase, you can inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card on the field. This card cannot attack during the turn you activate this effect, and obviously Odyssey is only at 14, so it's not looking good. This is probably just the end of the game here, banishing 2 again, going for another Blaze Phoenix, and that is going to be game. What a crazy game 1. Moving on into game number 2, Odyssey Icarus will get to start this one out. Opening hands, we see Wiretap, Blackhorn, Mind Control, Geargiano MK2, and Geargia Gear, and on the other side, we see Ice Hand, Blackhorn, Dark Hole, Geargia Arsenal, and Geargia Gear, so, pretty strong hand from both players. And let's see here, Odyssey gets another copy of Blackhorn, and they are going to set the MK2 and set 4 back row over to Molson, who now gets a copy of Armor. Very strong draw there. And they are also going to set a copy of Ice Hand here, setting 3. And in the end phase, Icaros is going to activate that Geargia gear, summoning a copy of Geargiano and MK2, then drawing a copy of MST, very strong draw there, overlaying for a copy of Geargigan X, using the effect, adding a copy of Armor, and flipping up the MK2 to special summon the Geargiano from Graveyard. A lot of people forget that this card actually does get its effect when flipped summoned as well as normal summoned, so that is an important thing to keep in mind. After that, overlaying into a copy of Alucard, using the effect, and it looks like they are going to go after a back row, and they are going to hit the Geargia gear, which is going to be chained, summoning the MK2 and Geargiano. After that, Mind Control to take the copy of Ice Hand, and then normal summoning the Armor, overlaying into a copy of 101. Blackhorn is going to eat that, and then, battle phase is just running over the 2 Geargianos, setting that copy of MST and over to Molson, who gets a copy of Arsenal. From here, Dark Hole is going to activate. Geargigan can then trigger to summon back the copy of Geargiano, and then Armor is going to be summoned, going to battle phase and running over that Geargiano, activating Armor in main phase 2 to flip itself back face down over to Odyssey, who gets a copy of Fiendish Chain, setting that, and passing here, Molson is going to flip up Geargia Armor, and Fiendish Chain is going to meet that, so it won't be able to trigger, but Molson already does have that copy of Accelerator, so they can special summon it here, overlaying for a copy of Exciton, and that is going to meet the Blackhorn, and they have not normal summoned this turn, so normal summoning that copy of Arsenal, going to battle phase and swinging in for 17, and then using the effect, tributing it off to summon a copy of Armor. Armor can then trigger to flip itself back face down. Odyssey gets a copy of Bottomless, which they're going to set over to Molson, who gets another copy of Geargia gear, which is this one live as well. This one is going to still be live here, flipping up the Armor and using the effect, getting a copy of Accelerator, and special summoning it here, and overlaying for a copy of Geargigan X, and I believe they had a second copy of Blackhorn, which they do, so that is going to meet that over... Oh, no, continuing the play, they are going to normal summon that copy of Arsenal. I almost forgot that they had normaled the Arsenal the previous turn, but this time it is going to meet the Bottomless, and from here, it looks like they're going to set that copy of Geargia gear, but Odyssey obviously has that MST, so crazy back and forth, and over to Odyssey, who now draws a copy of MST, so not doing much. They aren't really seeing a whole lot of engine right now. Molson gets a copy of Needle Sealing, which they are going to set, and that is going to eat the other MST, over to Odyssey, who now gets a copy of Torrential, back over to Molson, who also gets a Torrential, back to Odyssey, who gets that copy of Geargia gear, which they also do... Oh no, they might not have it live, because they have 2 MK2s, and usually the deck just plays 3 MK2s and the 1 Geargiano, so this actually is not going to be live here. And then Molson top decks a copy of MK2 of their own, which they can summon, use the effect, bring back the Accelerator, and that makes a Torrential play very bad because this will be able to get a resource back. So here, Odyssey just lets it go through, and MK2 is going to push in for 1,000 damage. From here, Odyssey does get a copy of Soul Charge, so now they are able to play a bit, summoning back MK2, Gear Gigant, MK2, and Armor. And that could be a big Torrential, which it is going to do, but the Wiretap is going to meet the Torrential. So here the 2 MK2s can overlay for a copy of Zenmains, and the Armor is going to flip itself back face down over to Molson, who gets a copy of Armor. Very strong draw there. They're going to set it, switch the MK2 to defense, and pass it over. Icaros gets a copy of Breakthrough Skill. They're going to flip up the Armor, use the effect, get a copy of Arsenal here, and they're going to normal the Arsenal, overlay for an Emerald, use the effect to put back the Geargiano, the Alucard, and the Honor Arc. So now that Geargia gear is live, but unfortunately they draw into the MK2, so that means that it's yet again not live. That is a really unfortunate draw there. They're going to normal summon that MK2 though, and bring back the Arsenal. From here, using Arsenal to get the Geargiano out of deck so they can make a rank 3, going for a copy of Soul of Silver Mountain, switching to Zenmains, and if I'm not mistaken, for some reason I was thinking that they had Soul Charged the turn this turn, but maybe I'm getting it a little confused with the previous turn. And then Gear Gigant is going to run into the Armor. Armor is going to add the Accelerator, and then from here, the Zenmains is going to run over the MK2, swinging in with the copy of Emerald, using the copy of Arsenal in main phase 2 to summon a copy of Armor, using the effect to flip itself back face down, setting the Breakthrough Skill, and over to Molson, who gets a copy of Chain Material, which isn't that great in this exact situation. Here they can use the MK2 and bring back the copy of Accelerator, special the other Accelerator in hand, overlay for a copy of Gear Gigant, use the effect, detaching to add back the Accelerator, and then going to battle phase, running over the Soul of Silver Mountain, main phase 2. It looks like they are switching the MK2 to defense, but this was just summoned, right? Yeah, it was just summoned, so they can't actually switch that to defense here. And then, oh, yep, they do catch it. Okay, nice. And then the chain material is going to be set here over to Odyssey, who gets a copy of Wiretap. They're going to use the Emerald, putting back the MK2, the Geargiano, and Soulless Silver Mountain, just making sure that, they put enough targets so that Geargia Gear will be live whenever they choose to use it. Getting another copy of Geargia Gear off the draw, flipping up the armor, using the effect, adding a copy of Accelerator, and then from here, special summoning Accelerator, and overlaying for a copy of Black Ship of Corn, using the effect to send the Accelerator, and then MK2's added back. And then from here, just crashing in, and it looks like Molson is going to summon back Geargiano, and then the Emerald is going to walk over the MK2, Zenmains is going to walk over the Geargiano. Main phase 2 setting, I believe that was the Wiretap there, over to Molson, who gets a copy of Ice Hand, setting the Ice Hand, and Geargia Gear is going to activate, summoning the Geargiano and MK2. After that, drawing into a copy of Fiendish Chain, overlaying for a copy of Dweller, and that is going to go into a game number 3. What a wild game. There was just so much going on. It was kind of hard to keep track of, which turn was which turn, as you might have noticed from that. Moving on into game number 3, Molson will get to start this one out. Opening hands, we see Torrential, Armor, Warning, Upstart, and MK2. And on the other side, we see Geargiano, Torrential, Firehand, Accelerator, and Wiretap. Here they will get a draw of a Bottomless, and they are going to set the Geargiano and set 3 over to Odyssey, who gets a copy of Blackhorn, and they're going to go Upstart, getting a copy of Accelerator, and they will just set the copy of Armor and set 3 back row over to Molson, who gets a copy of Ice Hand, which they are going to set over to Odyssey, who gets a copy of Geargia Gear, very strong draw. Flip up the armor, use the effect chaining Torrential just to, be able to, I believe that makes the Ice Hand miss timing here, and I think they added the Accelerator here, and from there, they are going to summon the MK2, bring back the copy of Armor, and just go battle phase attacking for 1,000, no reason to overextend here, using the copy of Armor in main phase 2 to flip itself face down, setting the copy of Geargia Gear over to Molson, who now gets a copy of Arsenal, and they are going to set the Firehand over to Odyssey, who gets a Wiretap, flipping up the armor, and adding a copy of Arsenal here, which they are going to normal summon, but that does meet the Bottomless, and from there, Armor is going to flip itself face down. Or was that the searching? Nope, they are flipping it face down and chaining the Geargia Gear, summoning an MK2 and Geargiano, overlaying for a copy of Geargia, using the effect detaching Geargiano to get another copy of Armor there, going to battle phase, and they are going to hit that Firehand, which will be able to trigger popping the set, but unfortunately for them, Odyssey does have the copy of Solemn Warning, but the Wiretap is going to be chained to that, so the Armor will be destroyed and Ice Hand will be summoned. Main phase 2, Odyssey's going to summon double copies of Accelerator, going for a copy of Black Ship, which is going to be met with Torrential. Ooh, very tough board here. Geargia will then float into a copy of Geargiano, using its effect, tributing it off to summon a copy of Accelerator, to at least be able to get resources back when this card is sent to the graveyard, setting the copy of Wiretap and over to Molson, who gets a copy of Chain Material. They're going to start their turn by summoning Arsenal, using the effect, getting Armor, using the Armor to flip itself face down, and set that Chain Material over to Odyssey, who gets a copy of Geargia Gear, which I forget, was this live this game? No, this is already not live this game. And here, they're going to summon Armor, overlay for a copy of Gear Gigant, use the effect of Gear Gigant, and add back a copy of MK2. From there, going battle phase and running into that copy of Armor, and it looks like Molson is going to search a copy of MK2. Main phase 2, setting that copy of Geargia Gear, and over to Molson, who now gets another copy of Armor. They're going to summon MK2, use the effect, bringing back Armor, and then from there, they're going to special summon the Accelerator, use the effect of Armor to flip itself face down, over to Odyssey, who now gets a copy of Soul Charge. They're going to activate Gear Gigant to add back the copy of Accelerator, summon the MK2 to bring back an Accelerator from graveyard, special the Accelerator from hand, overlay for a copy of Emerald. Here they're going to detach an Accelerator, putting back the MK2, Geargiano, and Gear Gigant to make sure that Geargia Gear is live, and drawing a copy of Breakthrough Skill. From here, they are going to activate that Geargia Gear, summoning the MK2 and Geargiano yet again, and overlaying, they're having a little back and forth for a copy of Gear Gigant X, and detaching to add back the copy of MK2, going to battle phase, running over the Accelerator, and it looks like Molson will add back the copy of Arsenal there, and then Gear Gigant over the copy of Armor, and Armor will add a copy of Accelerator. From there, the other Gear Gigant is going to run over the MK2, and the Emerald will attack in for 1,800. Main phase 2, they will set the copy of Breakthrough Skill over to Molson, who gets a copy of Darkhold. What a crazy draw there. And they're going to activate it. Clearing out the board, the Gear Gigant will trigger. Both of them will, bringing back the copy of Geargiano and MK2. Molson will then summon the copy of Armor and special the Accelerator, and just go battle phase, running over the Geargiano, main phase 2, flipping the Armor down, back over to Odyssey, who gets an Upstart Goblin, which they're going to activate, getting a copy of Fiendish Chain. From here, they're going to normal summon the MK2, bringing back the Armor, overlaying for a copy of Alucard, And using the effect to pop the armor here, Alucard can then run over the Accelerator. Accelerator will add back MK2, but obviously at this point, Odyssey does have several ways to negate some monster effects, flipping the armor face down and then over to Molson, who gets another copy of Arsenal. Not great. They're going to normal summon the MK2. That is going to meet Breakthrough Skill. Odyssey gets a copy of Dark Hole of their own, activates the Alucard, popping the back row. Armor is going to be flipped, and now it is definitely in Odyssey's favor, getting a copy of MK2 and normal summoning it using the effect, bringing back another MK2, going for Soul of Silver Mountain. Going to battle phase, running over the MK2, Soul of Silver Mountain will trigger to bring back the copy of Accelerator, going and attacking in with Alucard and Armor. And then from there, main phase 2, they are going to overlay into a copy of Geargia and X, using the effect to add back the MK2 from Graveyard, back over to Molson, who gets a copy of Firehand, just setting it. And here, Odyssey gets a copy of Bottomless. They're going to use Gear Gigant, and Molson is going to scoop it up. So that was a insane game, insane match, I should say. So much back and forth, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it. Comment any questions or videos you want to see in the future. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell to get notified anytime I put a new video out. Share this video with your friends. Don't forget to go down to the video description to find out how you can send in your hat format replays. Whether you won or lost, if you thought the deck you or your opponent was on was pretty cool, feel free to send it in. I'm sure a lot of people would love to see that. And anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video.